Audiences, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you know, whether you're doing music or whether you're doing a play, where they are never what you expect, and that's what makes live performance, I think, really good. It's the dynamic that gets built up between the performer and the audience that is the interesting thing. We know we can go out there and perform night after night after night. Some nights it will be better than others, but it will be better than others mainly because of that dynamic between us and the audience. And if the audience is really up for it, then yeah, you always have a great time. It always makes you raise your game as well.
Have you ever done a gig without doing On My Radio?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So it's not as though every gig has to be with some of the greatest hits?
No.
Right.
But it
no,
tends
you sound
to,
surprised that I'm asking the question.
To be. Well, no one has ever asked me that before. It was
Right.
just that I was sort of bowled over by the intelligence of the question. I was actually. You wouldn't believe some of the questions I get asked.
Right. No, I'm just wondering that the greatest hits syndrome, you know, you have sung that song many thousands of times.
We've done gigs where we've begun with Neurotica. I mean, how alienating is that?
Yeah, right.
And in America as well.
That is radical.
That was radical. It was very radical for that audience.
Yeah. But that, for the purposes of this gig that you did at Dingwalls,
for the purposes of this gig,
you had to do a certain spattering of the greatest hits, right?
Absolutely.
But that set list is not representative of what Selector do out on the road now.
It is fairly representative because obviously when you go out on the road, that's what people ask you to do. They want to hear On My Radio. And I have no real problem about that because one, I think that, and this is all credit to Neil Davis, is that is a fabulous song. It's a classic song and it's absolutely true. It was true in 1979. It was probably true in 1969. It's definitely true now. It is just the same old show, even more so now. Right. Is in the fullness of time, you can see the wonder of the song. Yeah. They don't even have DJs now with independent thinking. I mean, they just have some, I don't know, central kind of big brother that gets these things that they slide in and that plays you all the hits that week. Right. So I've always thought the DJs were fairly lobotomized, but now, you know, they are.
You've always thought that, yeah. That was back in the late 70s, same old thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But they still picked up on Selector.
They managed to kick the odd brain about, sort of on. Yeah, but there's always one with a brain cell, isn't there?
But I thought that the whole vibe about Selector, the instrumental, was that it was picked up upon because it was good music, not because of plug lists and all the rest of it. It was picked up on.
I think it was picked up on because it was the flip side of Gangsters. I think it was picked up on because that one record companies had suddenly realised that there was something going on outside the environs of London. Oh my God, in the provinces, we'd better get up there. I mean, you've never seen so many stupid Rolls Royces driving around the seedier places of Coventry, trying to chase people to give them a deal. I mean, it was really silly. So I don't think that it follows in that way. When you say they picked up on it, they made it a hit. The fans made that a hit. They were the people who, things happen, don't they, in an underground way at first. And then the powers that be in London kind of decide, hey, we better go and find that out and sign somebody. And it happens in that way. Various palms are greased, aren't they?
Indeed. If we can just go through now the songs that you did at Dingwalls and any sort of impressions that, you know, any sort of memories that you have about the songs, starting with Musical Servant.
Musical Servant. Well, that song was, we had the pleasure of going on tour with the Scatterlights when most of them are still alive, in 1993, I think, or 1994. It was the Scarvuvi tour, and we toured America with them and shared the same bus with them, tour bus, and that was just great fun. I mean, it was wonderful, just to sort of, you know, be around Tommy McCook and be around Roland Alfonso. And we then met up with them a number of times when they played in Europe, and we were playing with them and stuff like that. And then we heard that Tommy had died. And at the end of the set, their set, every single night, he would always sign off and introduce the band and you know, and say, and I've been Tommy McCook, your humble musical servant, and then they would go off. And I just thought, and he said it with such humility, I just thought that was just such a wonderful thing to say. And because it puts the music before yourself, do you know what I mean? And I felt that was what they were really about anyway. It's very, very difficult to do instrumental music. Because, well, it's just very, very difficult, and make that interesting over a long, you know, and they did a 2-hour set. So when we were writing that particular album, when that track came up, Musical Servant, it just wrote itself, and it is about Tommy, yeah.
And The Whisper?
The Whisper was... that was written between the first album, Too Much Pressure, and the second album, Celebrate the Bullet. That came out as a single, and it was backed with Train to Scarville. And I remember we had to do that on Top of the Pops with minus 2 members because they'd just left and we hadn't got their replacements by then. So we had to draft in, I think, Gaps Hendrickson, who was the other singer, had to pretend to play the keyboards. And I can't remember who played the bass. Somebody must have played the bass. It wasn't me, I know that. I think it was Comi Amano who played the bass. And so we suddenly went from a 7-piece to a 5-piece, which was quite amusing at the time. But out of that, that particular Top of the Pops, Ian Dury was there with the Blockheads. I can't remember what they were doing. It might have been Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. But I remember Ian coming over to us and saying, "God blimey, you're a 5-piece." That was under the other 2. And we said we were kind of minus a bass player. So he says, "Oh, do you want to borrow Norman Watt-Roy this is?" So we went, "Yeah." Borrow him, we'll have him, you know. And because we were in the studio by this time, recording Celebrate the Bullet. And that weekend, I think this was on the Thursday, the Wednesday or the Thursday, or whichever day it was, I can't remember now. He just came up to Coventry with Norman, and Norman put down the bass on both Celebrate the Bullet and Washed Up and Left for Dead, which is brilliant bass. And spent the whole weekend with us, and that was magic.
Every day?
Every day. Don't have anything to say about every day.
Respect yourself?
Respect yourself, don't really have anything to say about that.
Missing words?
Missing words, I have a great deal to say about
that.
Please do. Missing Words, again, another track written by Neil Davis. And this, it was on the first album. And I think that, apart from On My Radio, that was always one of my favourite songs off that first album. And I've always felt that was the closest we ever got to doing a love song. It's
got a Police vibe about it. Do you see that, Police?
Not really. No. I don't see that myself. But then, I mean, you can't really see that in your own stuff, can you? I mean, the Police were around at that time, so maybe that had an influence. But I mean, I don't see it myself. It doesn't sound like the Police to me at all.
Right, Celebrate the Work We've Done. Train to Scarville.
Train to Scarville. Well, that's just a great track. And done originally by the Ethiopians. And we took it and did a completely zany 12-inch mix of it, which was flip side to The Whisper. And I've just always enjoyed that because it's just a great one to dance to. From an audience point of view, and it's a big tradition, I think, in all of ska music, that whole kind of train vibe, you know, trains going through here and there, and everyone sings about trains from some point in time, which is quite strange really when you think they originated on Jamaica. It's a fairly small island to be singing about trains, but trains always have that really emotive thing about you know, distance and travel.
How much are you into sort of Jamaican lifestyle, or interested in it rather? Are you very interested in Rastafarianism? Or? I
was never particularly interested in Rastafarianism. I mean, why would I be? I'm a woman.
Right. But you're not interested in the sort of Bob Marley
I was very interested in Bob Marley, but I mean, I don't, you know, automatically kind of equate Bob Marley necessarily with Rastafarianism. I respected Bob Marley enormously as an artist. I don't think he stands head and shoulders above most people, either black or white, that I can think of in terms of his writing ability, what he was writing about, and his whole, persona and performance, I think, were absolutely magnificent. And going and seeing him at Stafford, the Bingley Hall in Stafford, when that was still a venue, still rates in the mid-70s, still rates as one of the best gigs that I ever saw. Rastafarianism is a completely different, kettle of fish. I mean, that is an actual religion practiced by people, and I've always felt it very strange that that it's based around Haile Selassie, a man who didn't really do too much, as far as I could see, for Ethiopia. And when he arrived in Jamaica, didn't even hang around for very long, as I recall.
Street Feeling.
Street Feeling. Street Feeling is a song that is, I think about alienation. A lot of those songs on the first album I felt were about, the misfit in the town, in society or whatever, the person who doesn't quite fit. But has this tremendous sense of belonging. That's what it's about.
James Bond.
James Bond. James Bond is it's like one of those. Again, that whole kind of John Barry music has been plagiarized a lot in Scarcer. I mean, everyone's taken loads and loads of stuff that he's done and made it their own. So it's a piece of fun.
Carry Go Bring Home.
Carry Go Bring Come.
Bring Come. Sorry.
Carry Go Bring Come in Jamaica is a gossip, a person who goes around spreading gossip about other people, and that's what it means.
Right. And My Sweet Collie.
My Sweet Collie is obviously began life as My Boy Lollipop, Millie Small's huge hit, and I don't think that. Well, I mean, My Sweet Collie is what it is. It's about marijuana, which
is it always the last song in your set?
Invariably, it tends to be the last song in the set. It doesn't have to be, but invariably, there's no place to go after that. Really, right. I mean, it's to let people kind of wend their way home with a nice kind of soulful feeling.
Right. And so, right in the sort of present tense now, what are you up to in the next 6 months? What are you doing?
In the next 6 months, well, we've got various projects on the go at the moment. Myself and Nick Welsh, the bass player and the selector, have just released an album called Selector Acoustic. That's our name, or that is what we were calling it, Selector Acoustic. The actual name of the album is Unplugged for the Rude Boy Generation. And we shall be out gigging and touring that particular material. And that's an 11-song album. And,
Acoustic Unplugged.
Acoustic Unplugged. And also we've got a venture going on at the moment called 3 Men in Black, which is myself, Nick Welsh again, from the selector, Jean-Jacques from the Stranglers, Jean-Jacques Bonnell, and Jake Burns from Stiff Little Fingers. And we've been out on 2 tours now, and that seems to go very well. And again, that's acoustic. And that takes in, from our perspective, I mean, it takes in the On My Radios and the Missing Words. But it also, we do Redemption Song by Bob Marley, and just experiment around with other things. We're not kind of, completely stuck in that way, and likewise, Jean-Jacques and Jake do their thing, as it were. But that seems to work really well, because I think people don't think that those 3 personalities necessarily get to gel in any way, but they actually do on stage, and it's quite good fun.
Right.
And the other project that we've got going is, I've always felt that there's always been women around in ska music, but they've never kind of come together and done anything in any way that shows the talent of all those people. And so we've put together a project called Ska Diva, which is myself and Rhoda Dakar from the Body Snatchers, and who also sang with the Specials and Special AKA, and Jenny Mathias from the Bell Stars, which was the natural follow-on from the Body Snatchers to the Bell Stars. Yes, Gardiva is the name of the project.
Right.
And we will be coming to a theatre
Near you.
near you at some point.
And
yeah.
acting-wise, what are you...
Acting-wise, I have a film at the moment called Burning Conviction, which is in development, which hopefully we are going to get money for by the end of the year, and we will be making.
Can you reveal the theme?
The theme is along the lines of my character works for, is a research chemist and works for a big company that is putting out a new drug, which is for, has side effects, and these side effects are that it may induce heart attacks in people. And I basically am a whistleblower, and varying intrigues happen out of that. As you well know, that if you become a whistleblower for a big company, lots of people don't take very kindly to that, and ill things come your way.
Pauline Black, musician, songwriter, presenter, actress, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.